attention right here at the fence line on March 1st, 2012, as documented on YouTube at 2:30 in the afternoon. And this is the follow-on hearing. As I told you at the viewing, it is just for the purpose of viewing. We certainly did that day, and we heard what you wanted us to look at, and we viewed. And let's see, we're missing one of the township trustees, aren't we? Okay. That's Mr. Hutt?
Yep.
Okay. So for the record, Bev, you've got the two township trustees, Mr. Corpenny, Mr. Van Buren from Bowling Green, Will, citizen or property owner, Pam and our attorney are here, and so Mr. Snedden? Mr. Snedden here, welcome. And Mr. James Snedden Jr., and you're an interested party. So there you go. What we would typically do in a hearing like this is turn to the township trustees first to see if either of you individually or collectively have anything that you want to say in terms of this hearing or consideration, and anyone else is welcome to offer testimony as well. I don't know who's vice president of the board or who's president. Well, you can go first, and Jeff second. Is there anything you'd like us to be aware of in terms of the hearing or this consideration? I mean, you're still in favor of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm in favor of it. It needs to be done for a place to turn around.
So, again, I'm just in a questioning mode here.
Yeah.
Do you view this as a safety improvement?
Safety, a place to turn around, because there's semis back here. Now, the turnaround, we similar.
How does this affect the maintenance of the township road? Will that enhance that? Snow plows or anything? Well, that's my question.
Yeah.
Okay. Brad or Doug, do you have any questions for the trustee on this at this point? Jeff, do you have any comments as also Bowling Green? By the way, is County Engineer Bill Lozier, if you don't know him. And you know everybody in the room, Bill? I don't want you to. Mr. Snedden right behind you, you know our council. Will, who's a property owner, Will Kerr, property owner. Two township trustees, Jeff Corpenny, Dan Van Buren, and you know our staff. Okay. Just, he's new engineer too, so I just want to make sure everybody knows everybody. Jeff, go ahead. Anything concerns you got?
Yeah, I brought these up out there.
Yes.
And I also brought them up on the record in our township hall. The fact of the matter is, on your resolution 67476 is why we're here today. There is a there's an error, or misstatement, or whatever you want to call it, above the resolution where it specifically says petition for by Bowling Green Township trustees. And this petition is not by the township board. And procedurally, I'd like it to reflect that is not through the board.
I took care of that. Barb, our zoning inspector, was coming in town, she brought it in.
Okay. Well, it's duly noted, Jeff, and you also mentioned that at the viewing, and it's duly noted. We'll certainly talk to our council and make sure that we get any guidance that we need on that. But
I'd like to see a correction on it.
you'd like to see a correction?
Yeah, because it's not right.
Okay. We'll see what our council recommends on that. I appreciate your point, and I appreciate your concern on that. Is there any question in your mind as to the validity of the signatures on the petition, or the beyond the title, the petition itself? Do you have any question about the integrity of the petition?
No, I recognize this.
Those are names that are.
People that
So those do represent freeholders that. Okay. Okay. All right. Will, do you have anything as a property owner in the township that you like that is relevant to this here? I know there's always issues, but relevant to this hearing.
Relevance to the hearing is this, the way I look at it, is I videotape meetings, mainly because I've had numerous problems with the township trustees over numerous years of them doing things outside of the meeting. The old sunshine law deal. I've never heard this issue come up at the township meetings. Now that I know the paper trail, thanks to Jeff supplying the paper trail of how this process went, I'm baffled. Why did I not hear this at a public meeting when a board of trustees does a public, this is a public action that they're taking here for the township. And as a board of trustees, you can't meet in secret, right? If you say it's a board of trustees, that means a meeting has to be in public if you're going to conduct any business and make any recommendations.
Unless you have a legal rationale for an executive session, I'd recommend you always meet in public.
Right.
We understand.
And we know from the facts, the paper trail, and from what I know from recording all the public meetings, this never happened.
Okay.
The only time it came up was,
So to your knowledge, whatever was voted on.
I knew it, Doug knows that very well. I have a real problem with two township trustees doing business outside the public agenda, public arena, because I've had my own problems with that. And that's my concern. I don't think it's a big problem for a landowner to provide property, which is what happened.
Well, I guess that's my question here. Do you have anything specifically related to this extension that you have a concern about? Do you think it's a valid consideration in terms of what it accomplishes?
I guess what it accomplishes in my mind, now that I know what's happened, is it basically helps the landowner quite a bit, because instead of having to divide the property up and put a road in.
And that was mentioned to us.
And that's basically what it is.
The property owner is not here today.
Right.
Okay.
If they were so concerned about a turnaround, I think Cripple Rider Road would have been done back in 95, 96, if they were concerned about trucks going in, buses turning around and all that. So I'm kind of curious as to how come this all of a sudden.
So there is some
Safety
potential
concerns.
advantage. You're pointing out there is some potential advantage to having maybe some additional frontage that by donating land that might benefit the property owner.
Well, it's obviously benefiting the property owner. And if you look at another aspect of it, look at I think it's War Road on the other side of 70, it goes to one house.
Yeah. Would you agree that the township benefits from having a turnaround there at the end of the road?
Well, it's a pretty big road, as you saw, but
Do you see a negative for having a turnaround there?
no, I don't see it negative, other than the fact that now the township's going to have to maintain it, which is part of our taxes.
Yeah, I understand.
And I don't know what that's going to entail. I don't know what the plans are, if they're planning on putting additional pavement in there, because it's really not paved in that.
We can
area.
ask you, it's a hearing. I mean, do you have any plans for any improvements?
Just, if it needs gravel, put gravel on it. You know what I mean, maintain it like that.
All right, but if it is established, it's going to be yours to maintain. Bill, do you have any comment?
Well, okay, so I'm getting in this in midstream.
Yeah.
You initiated it with Tim Lolo.
Yeah.
But, and he said what you just said, that the petition, based on his conversations with you, his impression about the way it would proceed is you guys sent the petition in, and at that point, the technical part of the process, according to the High Revised Code, is that the engineer prepares a set of plans, improvement plans, for consideration by the commissioners, and the commissioners decide whether or not through a hearing process whether they want to go forward with the project, and then those improvements need to get paid for somehow by a variety of different ways. I think something like this might be that you have to assess landowners. However, based on this conversation with you guys, since it was going to be your road, that you were satisfied with the existing conditions, so that the county engineer would say, based on the township trustees' recommendation and approval, they will accept the conditions as they are without any improvements necessary. And so that's the way that it was, that's what Tim communicated to me, because I called him recently, And is that the way you...
Yeah, see, when I talked to Tim, I asked him if there's anything I need to do and stuff, and he says he'll take care of it. So I let Tim take care of it. And then he called me and said he had the papers for the trustees to sign. So, and just get them back. So I signed it, and I took it, Dawn signed it, and I brought it right back in.
I don't know what that is.
And,
The plat.
yeah, on the plat.
August 30th.
Yeah, that's,
But that proves the fact, the two trustees
Yeah, but that's a whole different other issue.
acted outside.
yeah, see, that, when Tim told me, just get it signed and back in, I've never done this before, so I didn't know.
Okay, you did what the engineer told you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, well, it's just, I understand that in a perfect world, you might have done it a little differently, but that's, what we have is what we have.
Yeah.
So, I understand that. Is there anything else from an engineering standpoint you have, Bill?
Well, I guess I gotta admit I'm a little confused about it. I don't know what they signed, but I thought that at the end of this process, the right-of-way became dedicated, but apparently there is already right-of-way dedication.
Yeah, now it's a maintenance thing.
That was August 30th, it was Commissioner 66-177.
Which they have the authority to do that, isn't that right? And now it's a maintenance thing.
Yeah, it's just a maintenance
I
thing.
got it.
When does it turn over to the township, since it's done, is it automatically township the moment that you acquired that land? Because it was all through the commissioners, is it county?
Can you give us some guidance on it?
Well, right now, the process is that the property owner dedicated it as public roadway, and the commissioners accepted that dedication. So that part's done, it's been dedicated. Now it's whether or not it shall be established as a road. So that's the issue that's before us now, which is under Chapter 5553, not under Chapter 57, not under Chapter 5573. So right now, we're at the point just to determine whether or not there shall actually be a road established. Basically, it's kind of been like set aside for road purposes up till now.
Dedicated but not established.
Correct.
So that's two different considerations.
But as a point of clarity, could they both have taken place at the same time?
No, because once it's established, dedicated, then it says if there's any, once it's dedicated, if there weren't going to be any improvements, then they could have taken place at the same time. But if there was going to be improvements, then it has to go through this further process. So
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
we needed to wait for the engineer to, make
Right,
it.
but I mean, even if there was still going to be an acknowledgement from the engineer that the trustees would accept the road as it was for the maintenance side of it. So Tim's impression of how this was supposed to work was, regardless that there was going to be no improvements, that had to be acknowledged through this process.
And you and I are in the same boat because with my predecessor, who worked with Tim Lowell in the original
Right.
proceeding
But-
as well.
My question was the reverse though. Did the first part did they really need to dedicate the right of way ahead of time, or could it all have been done
Well,
together?
it was private property, so it has to be dedicated for public purposes. And that's what the process was.
Should that have come after the improvements part were determined?
No, it's got to be this way, because
And that's the way it has played out, right? It's been dedicated.
everything has been done
So
properly.
now this is a petition to establish and basically establish it as a public right-of-way, or an end or a turnaround on an existing township road.
Because technically, up till this point, it didn't really need any kind of township action at all, because the original dedication was a person can dedicate, which was the property owner. And then the second point regarding establishing, that requires X number of freeholders to petition, and it doesn't require the township to take any action or inaction at all up to that point.
I have a technical question of the trustees. Has the township been maintaining this road or removing snow from it?
Yeah,
in
we've
any way?
been running around there all these years.
Okay, how long, when did you say that went in?
That road,
Yeah,
that road's been in there, but like Bill said, should have had a cul-de-sac back there at the end of his road. All these should have had a cul-de-sac when Interstate 70 went through.
okay, so that's,
You know what I
that's
mean?
in the 1950s.
Yeah, all this stuff has happened way back then.
And the township, at some point, assumed maintenance of
Yeah,
that road
mhm.
up to the
Up to that
gateway
fence.
there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the road has not officially been dedicated.
Well, the cul-de-sac hasn't.
Just the cul-de-sac.
Just the cul-de-sac.
The roadway has been.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the roadway is up
From
to the,
668 back.
It's always
Yes.
known as dedicated.
That's always
Just an extension or an addition on
yeah,
the road.
just that turnaround's the only thing.
That was my
And
question.
that's what the petition is
Yeah.
for.
Very good.
Okay. Mr. Snedden, you've got your hand up.
Yeah.
Just a quick question too. Are you a resident of that township or a property holder?
No, but I am of the county, which county funds.
I just wanted to, just seeking what your interest is in that.
Yeah,
Okay?
because it's a county fund right now, we're spending to participate in this. And what my question is, I've talked to him about,
Him being,
yes, God, I'm sorry, about,
Tim Lozier.
you're Tim Lozier, I'm sorry. Yeah,
he's the county engineer.
yes, county engineer. I talked to him approximately, about a week and a half ago about the turnaround. And he said at that time that they wasn't planning on building a cul-de-sac, which I thought they were going to put a cement cul-de-sac in and a roadway.
No, there's.
I don't think there was ever any plan to do that. no.
Okay.
Well, I only go by what the paperwork said. It said cul-de-sac, so the first thing that comes to my mind is a regular cul-de-sac being put in. Now,
But a regular cul-de-sac doesn't, is not clearly defined as something that's finished with curbs and concrete, right? I think you're
that I can't argue.
you're
that.
making a stretch there a little bit,
Right. Well, no, I was just going by past procedure.
your assumption.
Yeah,
Okay.
what a cul-de-sac is. And on Snedden Road stopped at my cousin's property line. My cousin took care of, I guess, the section that you guys are going to endorse. And what I can't understand, she said, I guess the attorney, I don't know her name, so I'm sorry.
Alice Robinson Barr.
She said the stuff, they went by everything, and what I have found, through the fiscal officer of Bowling Green Township, I requested records, and what she had furnished me over this issue, which I believe you've got a copy of it, I filed it this morning, they don't have the first record going back to Bowling Green Township meetings, nothing concerning this issue. No publicity, nothing's been brought out to the public over this issue, and I was concerned about that, and also what I've read up on over the petitioners under the ORCs, it shows that they can be held responsible or accountable for the funding of what measures has been done by the engineer's office, your meetings, and all things that's been put in to advocate over this issue. And so I'm just trying to find out why procedures aren't being followed by the township. Don't most townships go by the Roberts documents, Roberts rules?
I just went by what Tim Logo told me.
Okay.
Well, one thing we're not going to do is start to make this an inquiry into how Bowling Green Township runs its business. They have their own organization, and they'll have to stand by their actions and how they conduct themselves. Our hearing here is a petition before the County Board of Commissioners to add this extension or establish this extension.
Right.
The petition, as far as we know, is valid. We have viewed. We are taking testimony today regarding that. We have duly noted the point as to whether or not a resolution adopted by the entire Board of Trustees of Bowling Green Township authorized this action. And we will certainly ask for clarification from our legal staff whether or not that petition stands as it is, because we still believe that petition also contains the names of freeholders who freely signed that and asked for this improvement, and they are the people who are in question. Jim, I appreciate your concern about the actions of the Bowling Green Township trustees. That's not our concern. However they conduct their meetings is their concern.
Well, my concern is taxpayers' money, am I correct, is being involved in this issue right now. Mr.
Lozier.
Mr.
Lozier, County Engineer.
Mr. Lozier, County Engineer. Their office has been involved, back to Tim Lolo and what paperwork I've showed here. I haven't seen any clarification from the bank, where the bank has signed off, because there should be a lien on that property. I don't see anything from the bank allowing property to be given away, extracted.
It's already been dedicated to public use. So
Yeah, what I'm saying, there's not showing none of this stuff, no deed research or anything. I'm not finding any of that stuff. And all that, to me, what I've been doing in the past, you have to do access to all that stuff, even go through OOPS to verify any lines that run underneath that road section there that you guys could possibly damage or create a problem.
Now, Mr. Snedden,
That's
just out of curiosity.
looking at it from the taxpayer's view. Plus, I don't see, since they've had a turnaround there all this time, why extending this back 90 foot, why should the taxpayers assume the responsibility of this?
Just out of curiosity, Mr. Snedden, are you speaking for yourself
For
or for your
myself.
cousin?
For myself.
Okay,
For myself.
just wanted to clarify.
And a pro se manner. And one of the things I guess I can do, which I can relate to your legal advisor, that I can maybe come back with a complaint over the procedures that has brought us up to this point.
That's certainly your
Yeah,
prerogative.
I know.
feel free.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other?
I
Jeff?
still had a question
Please.
regarding, the county has been given this property. When does it turn over to the township and go under? It's a very small amount of mileage, but
Yeah.
is it
On your road
actually
mileage?
considered township be added to the township? What's the procedure that it goes from county to township?
Do you have an answer to that?
Automatic.
Not off the top of my head.
We'll get that answer for you.
Once it's established, we send the resolution down to the engineer's office, and then they, I don't know your process, but they send that information to ODOT, and that's how it's put on
Your mileage?
on the mileage.
So
You might pick up another 30 seconds of a mile there or something.
It wasn't added any mileage
It's
then?
a process.
Is there no resolution that turns it over to the township? Because the commissioners, as I understand it, can turn any road right-of-way over to a township whenever they want. The same way the state can turn it over to me.
Sort of like along the 161 right of way.
Mhm.
There were some roads that were given to us by the state, and we assigned those back to the respective townships because we were not going to maintain them as county roads.
And part of this is because we don't do this very frequently. And we need to research it when we're doing it. And I know that we've done it before in this county, but anyhow, as I understood the process again, did the commissioners request the engineer to give them a set of construction plans for necessary improvements?
We do not request, a resolution does not specifically say we request. A resolution is sent down to your office stating that we are going to have a viewing and a hearing, and according to 55, 53, or 4. And from that point, your office, they always showed up to the hearings and the viewings, and I don't know.
I'm trying to make
your
this
process.
an analogy of a dirt road that we want to make into a public road for public welfare, because I think that's the same process here. And at some point, the engineer has to prepare construction plans and estimates. In this case, we know that it's going to say, as per the trustees, that there's no improvements necessary. When does that take place?
Well, this, like you said, this is a unique situation. Most of our road establishments are done through the subdivision.
Right.
We've already had that all taken care of. All those roads have already been dedicated. So all we do is establish the roads. This is unique.
Do you have any input on that, Councilor?
Well, the Ohio Revised Code says the engineer shall make a report in writing to the board on or before the date fixed for the final hearing. So we need to continue have a secondary portion of the hearing in order to have that
Well,
done.
that's fine. And I kind of anticipated we might want to do that today. I'll get to you in just a second, Mr. Snedden.
Yes, no problem.
That may be the best until the engineer has time to comment on this, and then we may just move to continue. But first of all, before we take action to continue or whatever we choose to do, the trustees have anything else that they want to note? Okay. All right. Mr. Snedden, you have a final comment? Oh, I'm sorry, Will?
Can I
Well, wait, Mr. Snedden has his hand up first. We'll get to you next. Go ahead.
The only question I had, which I'll refer back to the council, under the taxes, or, I guess this process, what's going on, who will be responsible? Will the 12 freeholders that brought this forward, will they?
Well, one thing is, you'll have to ask us the questions.
Oh, okay.
She's our attorney, and she doesn't offer free legal advice to anyone else.
Okay, I'll ask you that.
Ask the question, then if we want to inquire of her, we will.
Okay.
What's your question?
The question is will the 12 freeholders be held accountable or liable for the expenses of this meeting and all processes up to this meeting? There's an ORC that covers that, and I think I've already filed it with your office so far.
Okay. Duly noted. We'll if we need that information, we'll ask our counsel that question.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing it up.
I would suggest, though, that since you're talking a civil question here, that answer would have to come through a court of law, I would believe, as to whether or not they're held accountable for any action on their behalf. And I'm just speaking as a citizen here and as an interested third party, too.
Okay, had you, the only thing I was going by was what the statutes have shown, and that's the reason why I brought it up. So, and I thought, the statutes, that's what your attorneys or legal advice is supposed to go over, making sure that everything has been done in the right accordance. And that's what my question is. Well,
And that will be determined.
okay.
Fair question. One thing for Mr. Corpen, we did have a late arriver to the hearing. Would you please advise the clerk as to your name?
Robert Snedden.
Okay. And you're here for this hearing
Yeah.
regarding? Okay,
Mhm.
okay, I just want to make sure.
I was on the lake.
Understand.
I would just like to point out that, you know, the comment was made that, well, this is the first time we've ever done this, and we didn't know how to do it, and we just asked. Well, I'm going to tell you, and I think you probably know, I have pointed out the ORC to, the person that made that comment was a trustee that should very well know all the ORCs that are involved in this kind of process, because that's the same kind of process I went through on my road. And I'm like, to say now that, oh, well, I just left it up to the engineer, I didn't know how to do this, I didn't know to bring that to the public's attention, and how the process worked, to me, is totally ridiculous.
Okay. Point
Because
duly.
I pointed that out to him. Now, the second part to this,
Point made.
I have a real heartache with my paying taxes, a bunch of taxes, to the county and even the township, and legal advice is given to the township continuously. I have to pay for my own legal costs. I have legal costs on my road because of this whole issue. And when you point out these things to the trustees, and then they still say, well, I don't know what I'm doing here, I'm just depending on somebody else, and not reading the ORC, which to me isn't that hard to read. Legal counsel, as far as I'm concerned, there's an ORC, or county legal counsel has, that says, hey, if you find out that there's illegal activity or things being done outside a public venue, you know, sunshine law violation, all this stuff, on public, with a public person, they should be investigating those issues too. There's an ORC that covers that.
Okay.
And that's never being done. And
I hear you.
I know that that falls under you guys. It's not my representative, she is your representative. And
She's
it's
our counsel, but the civil division of the prosecutor's office also represents the trustees.
right.
But your point's taken, and we
Yeah.
understand what you're saying. I see
Understand
your
what I'm saying?
frustration.
I have a real beef with that.
But this hearing today is not to determine whether or not the township trustees of Bowling Green appropriately use the available legal, that's between you as a property owner and a taxpayer in the township, and them. We're here today to hear any other testimony regarding whether or not to approve this road extension. And at this point, I'm going to ask for a motion to continue the hearing so that we can hear from the county engineer regarding potential improvement, if there are any, and to hear from our council regarding these questions. We'll probably reconvene the hearing at an appropriate time, and at some point after that, then we will take action either up or down on this.
I will introduce a motion to continue the hearing.
Motion's been made and seconded to continue the hearing in light of the information we've got and some potential input from the county engineer. We appreciate that. Hearing any discussion? Soon be ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? It's unanimously approved. The hearing's continued. We'll advise you of the future date, and thank you for your input today. We appreciate it very much. Good comments.
Yeah, he's fine.
Mr. Later.
I'm sorry, this end.
Well, thanks.
Thank you, Will.
All right, good seeing you, Will.
We'll see you down the road, bud.
You know, it's not a problem with you guys.
Appreciate you coming in.
Just fine.
You got it. We understand your point. Thank you very much.